The last thing my son-in-law Mark ever saw in my dining room was my smile, a cold, hard smile. Because 10 minutes before, he'd slapped my daughter across the face, and his mother, Brenda, had clapped. She actually clapped. My blood didn't just run cold, it turned to ice. But I just sat there. I didn't scream, I didn't fight. I made one phone call, and they had no idea who they just messed with. Before we begin, drop a comment below with your country and what time it is right now where you're watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't just sit back. Tell me where in the world you are. Now, let's dive into the story. My name is Carol. This is my house on Evergreen Terrace in Toledo, Ohio. It's a good street, quiet, the kind of place where you wave to your neighbors, where you host Sunday dinners. That night was supposed to be a celebration. My daughter, Chloe, had just gotten a big promotion. She was glowing. I made her favorite: pot roast, garlic mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, the good stuff. My son-in-law Mark was there, and his mother, Brenda. Brenda she always had an opinion on Chloe's career, on how she kept the house, on everything. She'd make these little comments, sugar-coated poison. "Oh, working so much, dear. A man needs a warm house to come home to." That kind of thing. Mark never stopped her. He'd just shrug. But I saw the way he'd look at Chloe after, a flat look, like he was storing it up. Dinner started normal. We passed the plates, we talked about the weather, then Brenda brought up the promotion. "Manager," Brenda said, sipping her wine. "So many hours, and with the baby coming." Chloe froze. My fork stopped midair. "Baby?" Chloe looked at Mark, her eyes wide, shocked. This was news, big news, news she hadn't told me. Mark's face went dark red. "Mom," he warned. But Brenda just waved a hand. "Oh, don't be modest. I saw the test in your bathroom last week. A grandmother knows." The air got thick, heavy. You could feel it. Chloe turned to Mark, her voice a whisper. "You told her? Before we told my mom?" Mark slammed his hand on the table. The plates jumped. "Don't you start. It's not a secret. It's a baby." Chloe stood up, tears in her eyes. "It was our secret to tell. This was my moment, and you let her steal it." That's when it happened. Mark stood up too, fast. He was a big guy, played linebacker in college. He loomed over Chloe. "Sit down," he hissed. "You're being hysterical." She didn't sit. She shook her head. So he did it. He didn't punch her. It was a sharp, open-handed slap, a loud crack that echoed in my quiet dining room. Chloe stumbled back. A hand flew to her cheek. Her eyes were huge, full of betrayal. And from the other side of the table, clap, clap, clap. Slow, deliberate. Brenda was applauding with a nasty little smile. "Finally," Brenda said, "a man who controls his house." My world stopped. My heart hammered. Every motherly instinct screamed to launch myself across the table. But I looked at Brenda's smug face. I looked at Mark's chest puffed out like a bully, and a strange, cold calm washed over me. These weren't people. They were predators, and predators don't understand reason. They understand force. So I did nothing. I just looked at my daughter. I gave her a tiny, almost invisible nod, a promise. Then I looked back at Mark and Brenda, and I smiled. It confused them, that smile. It wasn't what they expected. They expected tears. They expected yelling. That's what they wanted. But I gave them a smile, and that smile scared them. I saw a flicker of doubt in Mark's eyes. Good. Let them be scared, because the game had just changed, and they didn't know the rules. My rules. I picked up my napkin, I dabbed the corner of my mouth, I took a slow, deliberate breath, and I made my move. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. I just smiled that cold smile. I looked at my daughter, Chloe, holding a red cheek. I looked at my son-in-law, Mark, breathing like a bull. I looked at his mother, Brenda, with her proud, clapping hands. My blood wasn't hot anymore. It was ice, sharp and clear. I pushed my chair back. The sound was loud in the quiet room. "Well," I said. My voice was calm, too calm. "That was certainly a display." I walked to the kitchen counter, my back to them. My heart was a drum in my ears, but my hands were steady. I picked up my phone. "Calling the cops, Carol?" Brenda's voice was a sneer. "For a little marital spat? Good luck." I didn't answer. I scrolled through my contacts. Not to 911. I went to the favorites. There was only one number there, just a first name. Mitch. I hit call. It rang once, twice. "He won't answer," Mark scoffed. "You're just embarrassing yourself. Apologize to my mother, Chloe, now." Chloe looked at me. Her eyes were terrified, but she saw my face. She stayed quiet. Then a voice answered, a man's voice, deep, calm. "Ma'am." That's all he said. "Ma'am." "Mitch," I said. My tone was different. It wasn't my grandma voice. It was my other voice. "Code black. My address. The dining room. Right now." A pause on the line. Just a half second. "Confirmed. 5 minutes. Containment?" "Passive for now," I said. I looked over my shoulder at Mark. "But the primary asset is physically volatile. Male, 6'2", 250. History of aggression." "Understood. Sit tight, ma'am." I hung up. I placed the phone down softly. I turned around. They were all staring. Brenda's sneer was gone. Now she looked confused. Mark looked angry but a little unsure. My words sounded weird to them. Official, code black, primary asset, containment. "Who the hell was that?" Mark demanded. He took a step toward me. "You setting your girlfriends on me?" "Sit down, Mark," I said. I didn't raise my voice. It was a command. He actually hesitated. My calm was scarier than yelling. "What did you do, Carol?" Brenda's voice was shrill. "I made a phone call," I said. I walked back to the table. I didn't sit. I stood behind my chair. "Now we wait." "For what?" Mark laughed, but it was nervous. "Your book club?" "To the consequences," I said simply. The next 4 minutes were the longest of my life, but I didn't show it. I stood perfectly still. I watched them. Mark paced. Brenda whispered to him. Chloe just looked at me, a tiny hope in her eyes. Then we heard it. Tires on the driveway. Not one car, 2, then a third. Doors opened and closed. Firm steps, not running, walking with purpose, up my front walk. The doorbell didn't ring. My front door just opened. A key turned, my key, and 3 men walked into my dining room. The first was Mitch, my Mitch. He was in his 50s, built solid, wearing a dark windbreaker. His eyes swept the room. They landed on Chloe's face, on the red mark. His jaw tightened. Then he looked at me and gave a single slow nod. The other 2 men were younger. They wore similar jackets. They stood by the doors. They didn't say a word. "Who the hell are you?" Mark blustered, puffing his chest. "Get out of my house." Mitch ignored him. He walked right up to me. "Ma'am," he said again with that deep respect, "you're unharmed?" "I am." The asset made contact with the principal. 1 strike to the face, witnessed and applauded by the female visitor. Mitch's eyes flicked to Brenda. It was a look that made her shrink back. "Audio?" he asked. "The home system was active," I said. "Full capture, from the provocation to the assault to the endorsement." A slow, terrible understanding began to dawn on Mark's face. This wasn't a social visit. The language, the precision, the men at the doors. "What home system?" Brenda whispered. I pointed at the smoke detector on the ceiling, at the carbon monoxide monitor by the kitchen, at the digital photo frame on the sideboard. "Life alert isn't just for falls, Brenda," I said softly. "It's for everything." Mark went pale. He understood. He'd been recorded, high-definition audio, maybe video. Mitch finally turned to him. "Mark Davies, you need to come with us." "On what charge?" Mark yelled. "She's my wife. It's a domestic issue. You can't." "This stopped being a domestic issue the moment you did it in front of a federal witness," Mitch said, his voice like granite. Federal witness. The words hung in the air. Chloe's breath caught. Brenda's hand flew to her mouth. Mark just stared. What does that mean?" Mitch looked back at me. He raised an eyebrow, a question. How much do I tell them? It was time for the first reveal, the first loop. I looked at my daughter. I owed her this truth. "It means, honey," I said, my voice finally warming a little, just for her, that Grandma didn't just retire from the Department of Motor Vehicles. I let that sit. I let them all chew on it. Then I looked at Mark and Brenda, at their stunned, frightened faces. I retired from something else, something that makes very, very thorough friends. I nodded to Mitch. "Take him." The room erupted. Mark shouted, Brenda screamed, but the two young men at the doors moved fast. They were on Mark in seconds. They didn't fight him. They controlled him. They pinned his arms behind his back. They were calm, professional. "You can't do this," Brenda shrieked, lunging forward. Mitch stepped in her path. He didn't touch her. He just stood there. He was a wall. "Sit down, ma'am," he said, not loud, but final, "or you will be detained for obstruction." The word detained hit her like a bucket of cold water. She stumbled back into her chair. Chloe was crying now, silent tears of shock and relief. I went to her. I wrapped my arm around her shoulders. "It's okay," I whispered. "Look at me. Breathe. You are safe. He will never touch you again." Mark was being led out. He was still yelling, "My mother! Don't leave my mother! Call our lawyer! Mom, call Dad!" The front door closed. The shouting faded. Just like that, he was gone. It was just me, Chloe, Brenda, and Mitch in my dining room. The pot roast was cold. The scene was frozen. Brenda found her voice first. It was a trembling, ugly sound. "Federal witness? What nonsense! You're a retired secretary. You're a nobody." Mitch almost smiled. Almost. He looked at me. "Ma'am, instructions?" I guided Chloe to a chair. "Sit, sweetheart, just for a moment." I turned to Brenda. "You're right, Brenda. I was a secretary once, a very long time ago." I walked to the hallway, to the locked closet under the stairs. I took a key from a chain around my neck. I never took it off. I opened the closet. Inside weren't coats. It was a small, fireproof safe. I knelt. I worked the combination. Brenda watched. Chloe watched. Mitch watched the door. I opened the safe. I pulled out a simple, polished wooden box. I brought it back to the dining room. I placed it on the table between the green bean casserole and the gravy boat. I opened the box. Inside, on a bed of blue velvet, were three things: a badge, a folded American flag, and a silver pistol. The badge was old, its gold finish worn at the edges, but the seal was clear. The words were clear. United States Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Below it was my name, Carol Ann Riggs, and my title, Senior Special Agent. Chloe gasped. Her hand covered her mouth. "Mom!" Brenda just stared. Her face was white as paper. "No," she whispered. "No, that's a fake, a prop." Mitch spoke. "Special Agent Riggs served for 27 years. She was my training officer at Quantico. She was the primary witness in the Great Lakes Bankers case, the one you read about in the papers, the one that put 13 white-collar criminals away for a combined 200 years. Her testimony was key. Her life was threatened, so she disappeared into retirement, into a new identity, into being Grandma." He said it all like he was reciting facts, but his voice was full of pride. I touched the badge. It felt cold and familiar. "The flag is for my partner, Joe," I said, my voice thick for a moment. "He didn't get to retire." I closed the box. The sound was final. "The gun is registered, and I am still a very good shot." I looked at Brenda. All the fake sweetness was gone from her face. Only raw fear was left. "You applauded when a man hit a woman. You encouraged violence against my child in my home. You think because I'm older, because I bake pies, that I'm weak." I leaned forward. "That was your first mistake. Your second mistake was thinking your son, the provider, was clean." Brenda's eyes widened. "What does that mean?" Mitch pulled out a small tablet. He tapped the screen. "Mark Davies, employed as a mid-level manager at Great Lakes Logistics, a company currently under, let's call it, review. His financials are spiderweb, unexplained cash deposits, offshore account flags. We've been looking for a pressure point, a way in." He looked at Brenda. "Tonight he gave us one. Assault in the home of a protected federal witness. That gives us leverage. That gives us warrants. We will tear his life apart, brick by brick, and we will find every dirty dollar." Brenda started to cry, real tears of panic. "You can't! He has a family! He has a baby coming!" "He has a child he will never have unsupervised access to, not after tonight. The recording is more than enough for a restraining order. It's enough for full custody. It's the key that unlocks every door he tried to keep closed." I stood up. I was done. "Mitch, please escort Mrs. Davies out. She is not to contact my daughter ever again. If she does, we escalate." Brenda was sobbing now, begging, "Please, Carol, I didn't know. We're family." I looked down at her. I felt nothing, no pity. "You stopped being family when you clapped." I turned to my daughter, my real family. Her eyes were wide, seeing me for the first time. "Come on, baby," I said, my voice soft again. "Let's go make some tea, and I'll tell you about my first day at the FBI." The tea was chamomile for the nerves. We sat in the living room on the big sofa. Chloe held her mug with both hands. She was shaking. "Start from the beginning, Mom, please." So I did. I told her about the young Carol, the one with a law degree who wanted more than courtrooms. I joined the FBI. I worked fraud, then organized crime, then high-level financial corruption. It was a world of numbers and danger. I met Joe. He was my partner, my best friend. We built the Great Lakes bankers case for 5 years. Joe was the face, I said, my heart aching with the old ghost. I was the brain, the one in the back room connecting the dots they couldn't see. When we went to trial, the threats were serious. They knew taking me out crippled the case. After the convictions, the director offered me a desk job in D.C. or a clean exit. I sipped my tea. I chose the exit. I wanted a garden. I wanted to be a normal grandma. I moved here. I became Carol from Toledo. Mitch was my protege. He's assistant director now. He checks in. He keeps the perimeter secure, just in case. Chloe was stunned. All my life, you knew how to handle everything. The broken faucet, the mean girls at school, my college loans. I just thought you were supermom. I was, I smiled faintly. I just had a very particular set of skills. My phone buzzed, a text from Mitch. "Warrants signed. Executing at Davies' residence and office now. Financial freeze in place. Mother dropped at her home. Warning delivered." I showed it to Chloe. "It starts now," I said, and it did, fast. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching, and before we continue, please subscribe to Whispers of Grandma. Let's keep breathing life into stories that were never meant to stay silent. Stories like this deserve to be heard. Now let's continue. By midnight, Mark's bank accounts were frozen. His company access was revoked. By the next morning, 2 unmarked cars were parked outside Brenda's house in Shaker Heights, not to arrest her, just to watch, to make her sweat. Chloe's phone blew up. Calls from Mark, from Brenda, from a number she didn't know, their lawyer. She didn't answer. She blocked them. She let it all go to voicemail. We listened to them together. Mark's messages went from angry, "How dare you?" to confused, "What is happening?" to desperate, "Chloe, please, I love you." Brenda's messages were a masterpiece of manipulation. "Chloe, darling, it's a misunderstanding. He was stressed. The baby. We're family. Call off your mother's friends. You're destroying your child's father." Each message made Chloe stronger. She heard the fear underneath the words, the fear of losing control. On the second day, my doorbell rang. It was a process server, papers for Chloe, a motion from Mark's lawyer for dismissal of the temporary restraining order, a claim of family drama grossly exaggerated. Chloe panicked. "What do I do?" "We counter," I said simply. I made another call, not to Mitch, to a different number. A woman answered. "Riggs, it's been 10 years. I said, "Lydia, I need a pit bull. Family law, my daughter." Lydia Vance was the toughest family law attorney in 3 states. She was also a former JAG officer I'd helped years ago. She was at my house in 2 hours. She watched the dining room recording on my laptop. Her face was stone. "This isn't a case," she said. "This is a slam dunk. We're not just asking for a restraining order. We're filing for full legal and physical custody, immediate, and we're attaching a financial discovery motion. We'll use his legal response as the hook to subpoena everything." That afternoon, Lydia filed the papers. The court moved fast. The recording was that powerful. But the real twist came on the 3rd day, the loop I didn't expect. Mitch called. His voice had a new edge. "Ma'am, we executed the financial warrants. We found the shell companies, the fake invoices. It's textbook embezzlement. But we also found something else, something with a foreign IP address." My investigator's brain clicked into gear. "What?" He said communications between Mark and an individual overseas, discussing asset transfers and permanent relocation. Dates go back 6 months before the pregnancy was even confirmed. The room felt colder. Chloe was watching my face. "What is it, Mom?" I put the phone on speaker. "Tell her, Mitch." "Chloe?" Mitch's voice was gentle but firm. "We have reason to believe Mark was not just skimming money. He was planning an exit, a disappearance. The timeline suggests possibly after the baby was born, possibly with the baby himself." The color drained from Chloe's face. Her hand went to her stomach. The slap was horrible, but this was a different level of evil. This was premeditated. This was theft of a life. My cold rage returned. It was deeper now, colder. "He wasn't just a bully," I said, my voice like iron. "He was a parasite, and he was going to steal my grandchild." Chloe started to sob, tears of total betrayal. "He talked about baby names, about schools." "It was a script, honey," I said, holding her. "It was part of the cover." Mitch continued. "The foreign contact tipped off an international flag. The Treasury Department is now involved. This is a federal fraud and potential kidnapping case. Mark won't be seeing the outside of a cell for a very, very long time." I looked at my daughter. I saw the pain, but I also saw the dawning strength, the fury of a mother betrayed. "What about Brenda?" Chloe asked, her voice hardening. Mitch sighed. "Complicit, at minimum. She knew about the financial issues. We have texts where she urges him to secure the family's future. We think she was his safe haven, his moral support for the crimes. She's being brought into questioning as an accessory." The net was closing, and it was stronger than they could have ever imagined. It all started with a slap, but it was about to end with the slam of a prison door, and we were just getting started. The following week was a blur of quiet power. There were no more dinners, no more confrontations, just the steady, unstoppable machinery of the law oiled by my one phone call. Mark was formally charged with assault and battery. That was the small charge. The big ones were wire fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy. The FBI and Treasury evidence was a mountain. His lawyer called Lydia, offering a plea deal, a desperate, pathetic offer. Lydia listened, then she laughed. Not a mean laugh, a cold, professional one. Your client's only deal is which federal prison he prefers. My client is seeking termination of parental rights. We will not be bargaining. Brenda was questioned for 8 hours. She broke. Of course she broke. She admitted to knowing about the financial adjustments. She admitted she thought Chloe was a spendthrift who would waste the family's money. She said the slap was regrettable, but that Chloe needed to learn respect. The recording of that interview was even more damning than the clapping. It showed the core of her, entitled, cruel, and blindly devoted to her crooked son. Chloe grew stronger every day. She saw a therapist I found, a specialist in trauma for law enforcement families. She started prenatal yoga. She focused on the baby, on us.
Then came the hearing, the custody hearing. We didn't have to go. Lydia said we could appear remotely, but Chloe wanted to go. She wanted to see it end. So we went. We sat in the front of the courtroom. Mark was brought in, wearing an orange jumpsuit, shackles on his wrists and ankles. He looked small, deflated. He searched for Chloe, his eyes pleading. She didn't look away. She met his gaze and she gave him nothing. No anger, no sadness, just a flat, empty stare. The stare of a woman who sees a stranger. Brenda was there in a cheap suit with her own lawyer. She looked old and shrunken. She tried to catch my eye. I looked right through her. The judge was a no-nonsense woman in her 60s. She had read everything. She had watched the dining room recording. She had read the financial affidavits and the FBI summary. It was over in 20 minutes. The restraining order was made permanent. Full legal and physical custody was granted to Chloe with no visitation rights for Mark. The judge even fast-tracked the termination of parental rights, citing the federal kidnapping conspiracy as the ultimate abandonment of parental responsibility. Then she looked at Mark. You are a danger to your child and the mother of your child. You have forfeited the privilege of family. Brenda tried to speak. Your Honor, as the grandmother... The judge cut her off. You endorsed violence in the home. You are a toxic influence. You are hereby enjoined from any contact with the minor child upon birth or with the petitioner permanently. Gavel down. It was done. As we walked out of the courthouse, Brenda rushed after us, her lawyer pulling at her arm. Chloe, wait! The baby needs its family. Chloe stopped. She turned. For the first time, she spoke directly to Brenda. Her voice was clear and carried in the hallway. My baby has a family, she said. She took my arm. She has her mother, and she has her grandmother, the one who protects her, not the one who claps. We walked away. We didn't look back. In the car, Chloe cried. Deep, healing sobs. I held her. It's over, Mom, she whispered. The first part is, I said, stroking her hair. But now the good part begins, the part where we get to live. A month later, the federal case solidified. Mark took a plea deal to avoid a trial that would have added decades. He got 12 years. He'd be out when his child was in middle school, a stranger. Brenda was not charged, but she was ruined. The scandal was in the papers. Suburban mom applauded assault, son in federal fraud case. Her social circle evaporated. Her husband, a meek man we rarely saw, filed for divorce. She moved away. Nobody knew where.
Our lives on Evergreen Terrace got quiet, peaceful. The baby was due in the spring. But I kept one eye open. I always would, because once you know how the dark works, you never really stop watching the shadows. And I had one more thing to do, one last piece of business, for my daughter and for my grandchild. Spring came. The tulips in my front yard popped up, bright and yellow, a new beginning. Chloe's belly grew. We painted the spare room a soft, sunny color. We didn't call it a nursery. We called it the sunshine room. We were making our own words for things. But I was restless. The victory was complete, but my old instincts hummed. The job wasn't finished. Security wasn't just about putting someone in prison. It was about building a wall they could never climb.
I called Mitch. The assets. Mark seized assets. What's the status? Liquidating, he said. The house, the cars, the fake investment accounts. It'll take months, but there will be a sum. Restitution for the company and a victims fund. I want a trust set up, I said, for the baby, from whatever is left after restitution, ironclad, managed by an independent trustee, accessible only for education, health, and welfare, untouchable by anyone with the last name Davies, forever. Mitch was silent for a moment. That's smart. I'll make it happen. There's more, I said. I'd been planning this. I'm buying the house next door. The for sale sign went up last week. Chloe overheard. She came into the kitchen confused. The Miller's house? Why? I took her hand. Because walls are good, but a moat is better. I'll buy it, we'll knock down the fence between the yards, we'll make one big safe compound. You and the baby will live there, I'll be right here. You'll have your own space, your own life, but we'll be connected. A safe house in plain sight. Tears filled her eyes. Mom, that's too much. You've already done everything. This isn't just for you, I said, and I meant it. This is for me, so I can sleep at night, so I can hear my grandchild laughing through the window, so I know the perimeter is secure. It wasn't paranoia, it was protocol. I had the money, my federal pension was generous, my investments were solid. I could do this. So I did. I bought the house, cash, no fuss. The paperwork was done in a week. We hired contractors. The fence came down. We planted a big garden in the middle where both back doors opened onto it. It was our fortress, not with guns and alarms, though I updated those too, but with love and proximity. The final piece came on a warm April night. Chloe went into labor. It was fast, too fast. We barely made it to the hospital. I was there, holding her hand. I saw the moment my granddaughter entered the world. I heard her first fierce cry. They placed her on Chloe's chest, a perfect, squalling, beautiful little girl. They named her Grace, a name about mercy, something her father never showed. Later, in the quiet hospital room, Chloe was sleeping. Grace was in the bassinet, swaddled tight. Mitch texted me. A photo. It was a document. Irrevocable trust for the benefit of Grace Riggs Davies established, funded. Below it he wrote, "The perimeter is secure, ma'am, on all fronts." I looked at my daughter and my granddaughter sleeping peacefully under the soft hospital lights. I had done it. I had neutralized the threat. I had secured the future. I had protected my flock. I was no longer Senior Special Agent Carol Riggs. I was not just Grandma Carol either. I was both. I would always be both. The woman who baked cookies and who knew how to dismantle a life. The woman who watered azaleas and who built impenetrable walls. A week later, we brought Grace home, not to one house, to our compound, to the sunshine room.
As Chloe carried Grace over the threshold of her new home next door, I stood in my own doorway watching. I felt a deep, solid peace, the kind you only feel after a long, hard fight when you know you've won. But then my phone buzzed, an alert, from my home security system, the one that was linked to every camera, every sensor on both properties. A motion alert at the far edge of the property line, by the old oak tree. My heart didn't panic, it just slowed. My eyes went sharp. I pulled up the live feed on my phone. I zoomed in. It was just a deer, a young buck sniffing at the new garden fence. I let out a long, slow breath. I smiled. The system worked. The watchman was still on duty, and she always would be. It's Sunday again, dinner time. The table on Evergreen Terrace is set for two, just me and Chloe. The baby, little Grace, is sleeping in the next room. Chloe's cheek is healed, no mark, but she's different, stronger, like she's breathed fresh air for the first time in years. We're eating leftover lasagna. It's quiet, the good kind of quiet. Then Chloe puts her fork down. She looks at me, really looks at me. "Mom," she says, "the FBI agent who came to the door that first night, he called you ma'am, but not like polite, like respect, old respect." I take a bite of lasagna. I say nothing. "And the forensic accountant, the one who unraveled Mark's business in a week, she said you taught her at Quantico." I just look at her, my little girl, all grown up. "Who were you, Mom?" she asks. Her voice is soft, not scared, just ready to know. I think about the decades before Toledo, the cases, the badges, the life I buried to be just grandma. I left it all to be safe, to be normal. But you don't ever really leave it. It's in your bones. It's how you see the world. You see the patterns. You see the threats. I reach across the table. I take a hand. I was someone who made sure the bad guys lost. And I am someone who will always, always make sure you win. She squeezes my hand. She doesn't need the details, not yet. She just needs to know I'm her mom. We finish dinner. We do the dishes. The sun sets over our quiet street in Toledo. Later, I check my phone. One new email. The subject line, "Case closed, assets secured." I delete it. I walk to the nursery in her house next door. I look in at baby Grace, sleeping peacefully in her crib, safe, loved, protected. I am just Carol, grandma. I make pot roast and remember to water the azaleas. But let me tell you something. Let me be clear. You can slap my daughter. You can applaud the cruelty. You can think you've won. But that's a dangerous game, because you have no idea who you're playing with. And by the time you figure it out, it's already too late. Stay safe out there. And remember, sometimes the quietest person at the table is the most dangerous one. Thanks for listening. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt taken for granted, let me know in the comments. Share your own small acts of courage. And if you want more real stories about finding your voice later in life, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for the grandma's chair. Until next time, be gentle with yourself, but be fierce for your own peace. Bye for now.